Reactionaries have been losing their minds after a story out of Colorado claimed that Venezuelan gangs had taken over several apartment complexes in the city of Aurora. So this has been fueled by viral videos of, for example, armed men knocking on an apartment door, many conflicting reports of what's actually happening, along with, yes, in some instances of violence, gunshots, gang activity in the area, etc. So let's kind of break it down. You've got the right-wing mayor, Mike Kaufman, who ended up contradicting his interim police chief and the governor, as well as some of the residents who live there. So now you could just say, well, the gangs obviously don't want the residents to talk, so you know that's why they're not going to go out there and piss off the gang members, right? Okay, well, what about again the police, the governor, all the people that are on the side of the migrants that are saying, actually, no, the Venezuelan gangs didn't just take over the apartment buildings. So now you also have the owner of the building, an out-of-state company, right, that allowed the situations in the buildings to deteriorate so much so that one of them had to close down, and it's possible that more are on the way. Then, of course, you have the allegations that the gang, the Tren de Aragua gang, has taken over the buildings, but that the Hells Angels are going to come to rescue them. Except that the Hells Angels are like, actually, no, we're not going to come. We didn't actually make any statements. And so, again, there's a lot of disinformation here. I'm going to have to go through it piece by piece. There's hyperbole, contradicting reports, disinformation. There's obviously a lot of fear-mongering here because it's a crime story, and straight-up racism because of the immigration angle. So, yeah, let's start with the mayor, though. So the mayor appeared on national TV, Fox News, of course, because he's a conservative mayor, and posted about this Venezuelan gang on his Facebook page. Now, the Venezuelan gang is real, it exists, and has been involved in shootings in the city, or at least one shooting and one robbery in the city. So, yeah, it's real. Now, the mayor claimed, though, the city was preparing to go to court to get a judge's order to clear out this, again, alleged takeover of the apartment complex where they're supposedly operating, that they had a home base there. Well, it turns out that's not true. City staff on Tuesday said, that's actually not the plan. First of all, there's no actual takeover of the building. And if you do that, you're going to make all these Venezuelan migrants homeless. They're not going to have any place to live. Now, Aurora and Denver police, by the way, because Denver's been roped into this as well, they've admitted that while there is gang activity in the area, which is, again, true, they say the gang's numbers are not that large and that they operate mostly in isolated areas. They're also saying that the presence of this gang, while real, is overhyped. And I believe that 100% because media has, especially local media, does have a tendency to overhype crime stories. Let's be very clear about that. Everybody knows if it bleeds, it leads, and every local news anchor loves a good old crime story. Now, who doesn't like crime stories are the people that are actually experiencing the crime, which again, some of the residents have experienced crime, and other residents have experienced the fallout from these crime stories going viral. Now, Aurora City Councilman Stephanie Hancock said on Tuesday, quote, the stories are really overblown. If you didn't live here, you would swear we were being taken over by a gang and Aurora was under siege. That's simply not true. You know what this reminds me of? The claims of Muslim no-go zones in Europe and the creeping Sharia law in Kansas. Did either of those things happen? Were they true? No. It just fear-mongering, and again, driven mainly by the right wing. Now, Kaufman, on his Facebook, claimed that the 5 apartment buildings along the Dallas Street that are associated with gang activity, right? And told Fox News that several buildings under the same ownership have fallen to these Venezuelan gangs. Have fallen. So Kaufman, what he's doing is repeating claims made by the property management company CBZ Management and their law firm that they had retained. Perkins Coie, which was the same law firm actually that, did the whole Steele dossier, a lot of which, some of which was true, by the way. There was seeds of truth in there, but then there was also salacious things like the PP tape that we never got confirmation of. So I don't really put a lot of trust into their PR firm, okay? Now, another reason to not trust CBZ management is they happen to be in some hot water over mismanagement of these very buildings. In fact, the owner, Zev Baumgarten, is actually awaiting trial over some very obvious and massive code violations related to these buildings. In fact, according to records from the Aurora Police Department, Baumgarten is the owner of the apartment complex at 1568 Nome Street, known as Fitzsimmons Place, that was shut down by the city on August 13th for some outstanding code violations dating back to 2020, before any of these allegations of the Venezuelan gangs even had come to light. Now, some of that included rat infestations, backed up sewage, and pileups of trash. In fact, I'm going to show you that. So that's the trash pileup, okay? In addition to the trash pileup, you have roach infestations and just general destruction of the property that was never fixed. Now, this property manager is blaming this on the gangs, okay? However, 4 CBZ management properties in Aurora also have outstanding code violations, and the residents from its properties in other parts of the metro area have also complained about neglect. But it must be the fault of the gangs too, right? Oh, must be. It's all part of the gangs and never on the landlord whatsoever, right? That's not to say that the gangs and the crime does not exist. Absolutely they do. And look, gangs and criminals tend to target the most vulnerable. Who's more vulnerable in this country today? Venezuelan migrants, or just migrants of any type. But it is clear to me that the owner is taking an existing issue, which again is crime, and using it to cover up for his own mismanagement that he is being criminally tried for, right? And the exploitation of these Venezuelan migrants who are living in these deplorable conditions and paying an outrageous amount of rent for the privilege of doing so, using that, and then had inadvertently created a right-wing blow-up. A lot of the migrants that are living there, as I mentioned, they're denying the right-wing narrative, along with members of the city council, even the police, which, it should be surprising. City Councilwoman Allison Combs told the Denver Post, quote, "There is this hysteria that we apparently have a gang problem, but what we have is a slumlord problem in the city of Aurora." Not only that, you have Aurora Interim Police Chief Heather Morris saying in a video on Friday that residents are not paying rent to gang members. Quote, "I'm not saying there's not gang members that live in this community. We've really made an effort these last few days to ask the specific questions, direct questions in terms of the gang activity, making sure that people aren't paying rent to gang leaders or gang members. That's not happening. And we've discovered here today and yesterday, talking with so many residents, that that's not the case. We're standing out here, and I can tell you that gang members have not taken over this apartment complex." Now, if you don't want to believe the police officer there, right? Because, hey, well, gang violence is pretty embarrassing, right? Which, it's funny because, police generally, when it comes to poor people, don't have a problem with just going into that building and mowing everybody down. I can see it happening. But no, police are saying didn't happen. They didn't take it over. And then, of course, you have dozens of residents who also gathered in the courtyard at the edge of Laurie Apartments on Tuesday afternoon, saying, "We did not get threatened by the gang members. We didn't even interact with any gang members." The video that went viral showing the armed men going up the stairs, apparently it did happen, and it was scary, but it was one isolated incident. It wasn't proof that the gang members were running the entire thing, okay? And it was related to, unfortunately, a shooting that had happened to show you that there is a crime and gang area problem in the area that they should do something about. But they say, the residents there, that there are gangs and criminals, but the only criminal here is the owner. Another said, we don't feel threatened by the gangs. There is crime. There is gangs. Yes. In fact, there were just some arrests of known or suspected Tren de Aragua members, and police said that they so far have linked 10 people to that gang and arrested 6 of them. So that's not a massive takeover. That's not enough people to take over, 5 buildings. I mean, seriously. And then, look, some of the ones who were arrested included the suspects in a July attempted homicide. Okay? Again, to claim that they took over the whole city, the block, or even these complexes, it's not true. There's no evidence there. What we're seeing here is people being fed hysteria, okay? And you add to it the social media posts about a video purporting to show migrants taking over a school bus in San Diego, and a 9/11 call reporting Venezuelan migrants taking over an apartment building in Chicago. Well, they've gotten attention, but when you looked into it, both of them were unsubstantiated claims. So now, not only that, but there's a spillover into Denver, as I mentioned. Police spokesperson Doug Shepman said many people on social media are conflating Denver and Aurora in a very misleading way. I know, big shocker, right? He said officers have no evidence that Tren de Aragua members are targeting Denver apartment complexes for quote-unquote takeovers. Look, the reality here is, while there is crime and there is gang activity, crime in Aurora has declined since 2023. This is with more migrants, more Venezuelan migrants that have come in to the city, and yet crime has gone down. It kind of blows away their narrative that, oh, well, more immigrants equals more crime. That's just not true. That's just not true. Consult any credible study on this that actually looked at numbers and not just the rantings of a right-winger on a blog, and you'll find that, oh, it turns out that migrants do not increase crime. It's just not true. Okay. According to city statistics, overall reported crime dropped 20% in the first 8 months of 2024 compared to the first 8 months of 2023, where there was a crime spike. This year, the city saw declines in homicides, robberies, and aggravated assaults. Again, is there crime? Yes. Is there gang and gang violence? Yes, unfortunately. And it happens in every city, which sucks. Is it the fault of Joe Biden's open borders immigration policy? No, because that's not real. Okay, we actually have a pretty secure border. You see, understand that this is why the right wing is making these arguments. It's political. It's an election year, of course. This is basically the migrant caravan 2.0. Now, you've taken, on the right, they've taken a local crime story, which again is serious and it impacts people that are living there, and it's terrible and we need to do something about it, right? You take a local crime story and then you blow it up nationally and distort the facts in order to push what? A narrative that is anti-immigrant. That's it. The right wing does this all the time. Left wing, they do it with left wing protests too. Say, oh, burn down entire cities, BLM, all violent. No, not true. 93% peaceful. No cities burnt down. I think there was a couple of arsons like an Arby's that was burnt down. But seriously, no entire cities burnt down. So this is what they do. And I'm not surprised about that. Now, what I am surprised about, and actually incredibly disheartened, is to see certain pundits on the left not only amplifying this, but then using it to claim that the so-called far left, the online leftists, don't think crime exists. It's maddening. Throughout this entire video, I've admitted crime exists and it is a serious issue. And yes, there should be ways of combating that. But no, what they're doing is left punching. And I think, I don't really care if you want to call me, oh, you leftists, or you don't care about that. I don't really care about what you say about me personally, right? What you're doing is hurting the residents there more than, the gang violence. What you're doing is you're opening them up to threats from the right wing. The residents are being threatened by anti-immigrant sentiments from the right wing, way more than the gangs. Okay, and this is after, again, being exploited by the criminal property manager, who would again charge them $1,300 to $1,400 rent for intolerable conditions. And then this entire thing, the mayor would get this closed down, okay, these buildings closed down, without finding a home for these migrants, who would then be homeless and subject to, well, either trying to find a place to live, scrambling to get a place to live, and many of them get rejected from both jobs and like employment and housing because of their status as Venezuelan migrants. So there's that issue, right? And so you get these people shut down, or these buildings shut down. These people end up on the street, and then they get criminalized because homelessness is criminalized in this country. And so what you're doing by pushing this narrative in the stories, you're not helping them, right? If and claiming that leftists to hate crime, because again, that's what I've seen some of these people say, right? That are covering the story from a supposedly left perspective. You're hurting the migrants. One resident pointed out that his stove hasn't worked for months. Okay, his sink doesn't drain. It's got mold growing in the bathtub. There are gangs of mice, cockroaches, and bed bugs that are infesting his apartment. He says that's the real issue, not Venezuelan gangs. Okay, that's what they're living in. And instead of helping them, the right wing is demonizing them, all the Venezuelans, right, for politics. And you know why? It's because they want to label all these migrants as gang members and criminals so that the police can move in and deport them. That's what that's about. This is how they're doing it. This is how they're trying to do the deportations. Make no mistake about that. Now, I think that, yes, this building should be shut down, but only until you have found these migrants better places to live in a safer area so that they don't have to deal with the bed bugs, the roaches, the gang violence. That is the real position of the far left. I am considered to be the far left, okay? I am not saying that crime doesn't exist, gangs don't exist, and just abandoning these working class Venezuelan migrants to the gangs. The gangs didn't take over. The real issue here is the anti-immigrant sentiment blocking them from being able to get someplace nicer, and this right-wing mayor that's trying to shut them down, to shut down this building and displace them so that they can all be deported. That's the real issue here, okay? Look, I'm glad, by the way, too, that the law enforcement is going after the gangs. They should. That's their job. And they've been doing their job. But again, we got to get those people out of the buildings. Then we can go after another problem. The other problem is the slumlord. Now, the slumlord is scheduled to go on trial in February of 2025 for these violations. Good. Good. I think that's what has to happen. There has to be accountability. There has to be safety for these people and accountability for those who did them wrong. And of course, to go after the actual criminal elements as well, the gangs. That's it. But again, to say that there is a massive Venezuelan gang takeover of all these apartment buildings, it's just not true. It's just not true. So understand, too, and this will be my final thoughts on this. When certain people tell you that the left doesn't believe crime is real, or that we don't care about crime, or we're just gaslighting you, or whatever, or we're only interested in protecting our team. Funny enough, because leftists don't really have a team. Okay, we criticize each other more than we do anyone else. If you've ever actually met a real leftist, you would know that we all hate each other. Okay, it sucks, but it is what it is. When they're saying that, you might want to look into the motivations of the people who are saying that. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, subscribe, hit the bell icon in order to get notified whenever a new video is released. And if you want to support independent, progressive media through this difficult time where it seems like everybody is shutting down, you can become a member on our YouTube page, you can become a subscriber on Facebook, or you can go to my Patreon. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf. Thank you.